Welcome to Expedition Networking, a special segment of the Networking RX podcast. I'm Frank Agan, founder and president of AmSpirit Business Connections and your host for this program. For those of you who are familiar, on the Networking RX podcast, we share information and have conversations with experts, such as authors, researchers, and social scientists. And all of these programs are aimed at helping you learn how to become better at building professional relationships and understanding why they work. In this Expedition Networking segment, however, we're going to bring on successful entrepreneurs and unique professionals and explore their networking adventure and learn how they used relationships to create lasting success.
Today on Expedition Networking, we have Connor Dube. He is an active speaker, entrepreneur, founder of the B2B Mentors podcast, marketing writer, and an all-around B2B marketing, his word, not mine, nerd. You said it, not me, right? He started his first oddball business at 7. I'm sure we'll get into that. And he's gone on to create 8+ figures in sales, coached hundreds of business development leaders on social selling and content marketing. He's been featured on leading podcast platforms, stages, and Connor has contributed course content to help colleges modernize their curriculum in B2B sales and marketing. With his current focus as partner director of sales and marketing at Active Blogs, Connor assists B2B companies to get their content done and with their social selling strategies. Connor, welcome.
Howdy. Good to see you, man.
Good to see you again.
On the other side at this time, I guess we got to have Frank on our podcast, which was a blast.
Yeah,
got that published up. Everyone
it's
should
out there.
Go listen to Frank on the other side of the recorder for once.
Yeah. Well, let's hear this story. You had your first business at 7. Why do you say it was an oddball business? My first business was I sold worms or night crawlers, I guess. So would that be an oddball business?
100%.
Okay.
100%. How many people go into worm sales? How old were you when you sold worms?
I was in 6th grade, so it was a little older than 7. But I grew up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. It was hunting, fishing country. Cost of goods sold was nothing. I went to the golf course after it rained. My parents would take me. I would pick night crawler. It'd be out by the thousands. So anyhow, I'm interviewing you. Go for it. Tell me about your business.
I love the night crawler. We should have talked about that. But my first dive into the world of entrepreneurship started at the tender age of 7, partially because, both of my parents were real estate folks. My dad was out franchising RE/MAX offices like early on in the early days. My mom worked for RE/MAX as an agent, and that's how they met at a conference in Vegas. And so what happens in Vegas doesn't always stay in Vegas. Surprise, no. Here I am.
Yeah.
So yeah, when I was, and so I kind of grew up in that environment of real estate agents, like always at events and the schmoozing and boozing that was happening. And as a young kid, my mom always drug me along to those events. And so when I was 7, and this is actually when 9/11 happened and the Twin Towers went down, I wanted to find a way to give back. So I took rocks from my neighbor's yard and my parents' yard, like, crappy landscaping rocks that are kind of ugly, but, people are like, why is there landscaping missing out of my yard? Well, I took some rocks and I painted them with like American flags and peace symbols and just patriotic symbols. I painted the rocks and I sold them at a motorcycle rally and raised about $150 to donate to the rebuild efforts for 9/11. So that was my dive into the world of business. That philosophy has kind of followed me along. Like making money's great and, being able to do that. But at the end of the day, for me, I'm always thinking, what kind of impact am I having? How can I give back? And how can I do more business so that I can give back even bigger as I continue to grow my career?
Now, did you take I guess I'll call it a traditional route. Did you go to college?
So I did surprisingly go to college because I was the worst damn student that there was. Like, I went and I did everything I could to get out of high school, like ASAP. I'm like, I need to get out into the real world. This is not for me. But I did end up getting some scholarship, and, marketing was something I wanted to expand upon. So I did end up going to Metro State University of Denver. I did the 5-year plan because I was a little slow in the math department, and graduated, in basically a degree in common sense. Now, in hindsight, like, I probably wouldn't have gone to college. I'd be way further ahead in my professional life right now. I feel like college just wasn't really it for me. Part of the reason was when I was in college, I was actually working and doing door-to-door sales. So I paid my way through college, paid my way 100%, alongside scholarships by banging on doors and selling windows. And I did that for 2.5 years, where most people don't last 2.5 days, 2.5 weeks doing door-to-door sales. It is the most brutal form of sales. And if any of you have done that before, for sure. So that gave me a lot more relevant experience, I felt, than even my degree gave me. And eventually I was promoted into another department in that company. I ended up managing, training over 25 salespeople. I helped grow that department from 4 million to 10.8 million in a year and a half. And I'm like, this is it, man. Sales and marketing. This is absolutely what I love. I thrive on. And, as I put in my bio, I nerd out about.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think the whole college, not college is an interesting debate. I went on to law school. So my dad was a college professor. I don't think there was ever a question in anybody's mind I was going to go to college.
See, but a law degree makes sense. Like, if with a law degree, you can do so much with a law degree. Like, that's something that you definitely would go to college for and could make significant use out of.
Well, I didn't go off to college to do it. It was just kind of like I was doing well in college, and it's like you have to do something with your life. And I think the problem is there's not a great track for not going to college and getting into business. There's a great track for not going to college and getting into a trade. There's a track for being in college, but that middle ground of, hey, just get out there and get in business. You were fortunate you had a job, door-to-door sales. And I think more people would do it if there was a better, I use the term loosely, tracked. I mean, it was just, hey, this is how you do it. It's not enough to say go into business, I don't think. I mean, I think you have parents who kind of, they blazed a path for you to kind of follow. I look at it this way. It's kind of like kids who go off to college or the first one in their family to go to college. That's a hard thing because they don't have that role model. So if you're somebody, for me, it would have been a total disaster going off and being in business because my dad was a college professor. My mom was a high school teacher. There was no business there to, hey, this is what you need to do. Now my kids are better suited for it, but oh well.
Well, my mom didn't go to school. My dad did. He ended up going into entrepreneurship. So he's been pretty much a career entrepreneur for 30 plus years, which is interesting because we're never really close when I was younger. Both my parents are split up when I was 1 year old. And in hindsight, seeing the differences between my mom and the freedoms that were allowed to each other, I knew that I was born and bred to be an entrepreneur and an intrapreneur, right? Like I work for my clients. So part of being involved in their businesses is kind of like intrapreneurship in a way. That also comes down to my partnership with my dad too. But college, I think is good if you want to learn how to learn, but they used to be the gatekeepers. And I talk to a lot of university students now, and college used to be the gatekeepers to the career, but and you've done this too. I mean, we've done this through our platforms, our podcast platforms. I've interviewed millionaires, billionaires, successful entrepreneurs, and 9.5 out of 10 times, every single one of them says, I don't care about your college degree. I want someone who's ambitious, willing to learn, can create culture, takes action, isn't lazy, blah, 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 and blah. And so, especially with social media, right? Like, I'm a huge advocate of LinkedIn. I believe if I truly wanted to, even though I just have a minor, marketing degree, I could take my skill set, even as a college student, and go out to any company in the world and earn myself in the door, whether I have a degree or not. And most companies will tell you that too. The traditional, it's called the hidden job market, like the traditional path. And this goes back to networking too. Like, college students need to treat their career, or high school students, or, young folks, treat it like a sales position. And if you can learn how to sell, you can get yourself into any company, regardless of your degree. All it really takes is ambition, focus, drive, enthusiasm, and you can find yourself with huge opportunities, earning 10, 20x plus multiples to what your fellow college graduates have done. Like, I have friends who have gotten biology degrees and you name it. And, I make significantly more than them, and I got kind of a rinky dink degree, but I have other friends who didn't go to college and they're making millions and millions of dollars every year.
Yeah. No, college is totally agree. College is geared for getting a job, having a career. That's what it's geared for. That's all they talk about. And it's not geared for, and it's changing a little bit, but it's not really geared for entrepreneurship. Mainly because you don't have a lot of entrepreneurial minds in there. You have people who got a PhD, are teaching. They understand that. They understand the paycheck. They don't understand. They can talk about this. They can write about
the application. Maybe they worked in like most of although the college I went to be fair to them, they did have a lot of retired practitioners and industry practitioners who did become educators. But on the flip side, I also came across many of my professors who you can tell they've never applied this stuff that they're teaching in the real world. Yeah. And then I'm out there in the real world as a student actually applying this stuff, which is part of the reason why I ended up going back and creating curriculum for my university. Because I went back to the professors. I said, guys, you are missing the boat big time. And in order to make yourself more attractive, because university is a business, colleges is a business, to make yourself more attractive, you have to have these principles in here, or other colleges are going to adopt it. You're going to lose students, or you're going to have students that are going to lose interest, like me, because you don't have applicable real world information as part of your curriculum.
Yeah. I don't know firsthand because I've been out for a while, but it doesn't take much imagination to realize what they're not keeping up with. And you hit it on the head. College is really about learning how to think, because everything that's taught there's a YouTube video out there for it, right?
100%.
Or there's some sort of course out there.
100%.
But you can build a lot of contacts through college, and you can certainly learn how to think, which is very helpful. I
wish I took my tuition and took my first year as a gap year and went and bought entrepreneur courses from other entrepreneurs, or real estate courses, or ad courses. I've now at this stage, I've invested multiple 5 figures just into personal development, mastermind groups, trainings, all that good stuff. I wish I would have done that in replacement of my, of paying for a piece of paper that I don't even know where the hell it is. It's probably shoved in a corner somewhere.
Yeah, it could be. It could be. So you decided to take this entrepreneurial path. You had your parents helping you. You said you were kind of in a partnership with your dad. Is that what I heard?
So when I've started a handful of companies over the years, from in high school, and I've done side hustles and stuff while I was in college. But when I graduated, I was either going to go start another business, or my dad had this legacy agency called Proven Systems, which is now Active Blogs. And I said, hey, let's partner up. I'll take over a portion of the business. Let me develop out some more modernized product service lines, help manage team, and just kind of take this off your plate so you can play more of an advisor role than a in the business everyday role. So I took that over right after college, and I've founded a couple other brands since then, but that's pretty much my main focus now is with both of what we do together at Active Blogs. Now, what's interesting is the business, my mom, my family, like we're always middle class. Like I never realized how much we didn't really have money to spend until I became more of an adult and realized how kind of financially unfree we really were. And that's my mission right now, is to create financial freedom for myself, my family, and, eventually my family that I create for myself someday.
Right. No, I think we're all segregated in a way. Now I was fortunate. I went to a high school where it was a college town. So, I literally went to school with the son of the town drunk and the daughter of the college president. So there was some diversity there, but even in big cities, you have suburbs where very well-to-do suburbs, and then you have suburbs, city schools that likely struggle. And then you have suburbs where it's, middle of the road. And so you don't necessarily you hear stories about the rich kids, put it that way, but you don't really see the rich kids. You don't really know. Having their own car is like, oh, okay, they have their own car. They have their own Chevy Vega, whatever. All right. So anyhow,
well, it's part of like assuming makes an ass out of you and me. Like we grew up in a middle class suburban neighborhood. And, believe it or not, I started working in a restaurant at the age of 13. I was in the dish pit of a restaurant at the age of 13, and I worked jobs in addition to building businesses from 13 until I, moved to Denver and I graduated. I grew up in Fort Collins, Colorado, which is also a college town. And, all my friends would look at me and be like, dude, or today people would I even have old friends who would tell this to me today. Like, yeah, dude, like you're doing good, but that's because your parents like took care of you and paid your way and you got a leg up. I'm like, dude, you have no idea. I bought my own car. My first car I bought. Okay. Yeah. I paid my way through college. I paid my way through everything. And I worked my ass off for years, and I've earned everything. I've borrowed $100 from my parents. And I can even remember that day when I was living and my rent was like $300. And I was so freaking broke at the time. I paid tuition, and, I had a girlfriend, and girlfriends are expensive too. And I had to borrow $100 from my parents to pay rent on my $300 home that I was renting out. And, that was like such a setback for me. That's how much I want to earn my way to do what I do and built what I built, because I want ownership of it.
Yeah. I know that story. I tell my kids, I graduated law school and this is the mid 80s, $40,000 of debt, right? I have a negative net worth, got a loan to get a car. Law school is the poorest I have ever been. It's just, you can't work. It's, books are expensive. Everything's expensive. It's just this incredible sinking feeling.
When did things start popping for you? Like, what age did you really start like, oh, okay, I'm actually building some wealth here. Like I've got money to set aside. I've got money to reinvest back into my business. And
you're turning the tables on me, but that's a good question. When I first started out at my first, I'll call it a legal job, my first job, they started letting people go immediately. It's kind of a late 80s. There's a little mild recession, letting people go. I remember talking to my dad saying, oh my God, I've got this student loan, which $40,000 isn't a lot today, but it was then. I've got this student loan. I've got this car. I've got rent. And he just said, you best just start saving money. And I just bought a 27-inch TV, which was like, one of those big boat anchor TVs. And he says, yeah, you just have to stop spending like that and start saving money. And so I just became very disciplined. I had a couple of friends who were very adept at the stock market and mutual funds, and they took me under their wings, these guys I worked with, and just kind of showed me the way and just started cost dollar average savings. And, you know, when you're in school, you see these illustrations of people putting a little bit of aside month after month after month and how it grows. It's my life, right? I mean, fortunately, I married a woman, dated a woman, married a woman who is more frugal than I am, you know, and which has been very, very helpful. But
so you invested in stocks.
Yeah, mutual funds. Get into mutual funds. Yeah.
Do you still do that today, or do you do real estate, or do you do anything in the crypto world?
No, I don't do anything in the crypto world. But yeah, I have real estate. I have
Frank's house of NFTs.
What's that?
NFTs. Do you know about NFTs?
No.
Oh, we won't even go into that.
Okay.
It's like the next big Bitcoin. I'm not personally in that space.
Yeah.
I don't touch it, but
slow and steady wins the race. Slow.
Uh-huh.
I have a broker. I've always had a broker, and that's been helpful. But yeah, I just get started early. That's, you know, my kids, they've seen it. They're on this mad dash to see who gets the $1 million first. I mean, it's fun to watch. It's fun to watch because I know that they'll be smart about their money. And I think that's two things in school: teaching kids how to build relationships and network, right? And the other thing is to understand money. Those are two things that the education system fails people on.
100%.
Yeah.
I am so illiterate when it comes to money after I left college. I mean, like credit cards, trying to pay for crap that shouldn't have been paying for, you know, you name it is like it. Yeah. I mean, high school and grade schools are when they really need to be like teaching this stuff.
Yeah.
So I think the alternatives are coming. I think especially with, you know, people maybe not sending their kids back to school after they were out of school for the pandemic. I know many entrepreneur parents who are just doing private school now moving forward. They're like, I'm not going to send my kids back into this craziness, and they're going to go back and, you know, not even really learn anything about the real world. So
yeah. Well, I think a lot of kids are, a lot of people, not kids, but people are going into business. You know, I think that's part of the problem of, you know, the employment pool is down because there's a lot of people like, you know, I'm going to start my own business. They were forced into it. So anyhow, let's shift gears. We're running short on time. Let's talk about active blogs and, you know, what you're doing, how the audience can help you, how they can get a hold of you.
Yeah. Audience. First, I'd love if you checked out our B2B Mentors podcast. We had Frank on as a guest. We interview top marketers, business development leaders, all in the world of business to business sales and marketing. And on the active blog side of things, we take the most time intensive part out of the most important part of your business, which is marketing and creating content for your marketing. So what we do at Active Blogs is we create blogs, newsletters, LinkedIn content, videos, social media content for B2B companies that sell to other businesses, and help so that they can save heck of a lot of time, achieve better results, and have much better quality in their communications instead of taking industry blogs that they find randomly on the internet and throwing it on LinkedIn, and it's not even their voice, their thought leadership. So you can learn more about that at activeblogs.com. Activeblogs.com is where you can go for that. Okay. And I'm on all major social media apps. So if you just Google Connor Dube, CONNORDUBE, you'll find me pretty much everywhere.
And I mispronounced your name in the beginning. I apologize. At any rate,
it's ironic growing up in the state of Colorado with the last name Dube.
Yeah, I was going to say.
But I've heard it all. Scooby Dooby, okay. You know, Doobie Brothers, you name it.
No, back to your business. I think what you do is key for businesses, because the number one reason why people don't do it because they don't have the time to do it is really what it boils down to. Me, I've written a lot of books. I have content. and I show people what I do, and they're like, oh, wow, that's great. But they fall down because they don't have somebody like you to kind of keep after it. They get caught up in the fires of today, and they have an idea, but then they never are able to put it down on paper. But I
there's
think
huge value in what, and again, we've been doing this for over 20 years. There's huge value in being able to have someone to hold you accountable to get those thoughts out of your head,
yeah,
but then take the work off of getting it done. Cause time is a big thing, but also like people know they need to be doing marketing content, but the biggest thing is, I don't know what the heck to say or talk about. And so that's why having a partner in an agency like us to do it for you is immense value, especially too, like you're in the networking business. So when you're networking with people in person or online and you make those relationships, but you don't do business right away, how do you stay in contact with them? How do you stay in front of them? Because reach is only one part of the equation. You also need consistency. Right. So content is the vehicle for consistency.
Yeah, I totally agree. All right, Connor Dube, thank you for your time.
Great catching up with you as always, man.
To wrap things up, remember, we're looking for some enterprising business types to join our team as franchisees of AmSpirit Business Connections. Our franchisees work with entrepreneurs, sales representatives, and professionals in their area to help them become more successful through networking and the exchange of quality business referrals in a structured weekly morning meeting. This is a unique franchise opportunity, you see, because these meetings are in the morning. A successful business type or professional can add this franchise opportunity onto what they're already doing. Again, all of our franchisees do something else. For a couple hours in the morning, a few mornings a week, these franchisees work the AmSpirit Business Connections model. The rest of the time, they're attorneys, accountants, realtors, coaches, and consultants of various kinds. The wonderful thing is that not only do our franchisees realize a financial gain from operating the AmSpirit Business Connections model, but the business networks that they build and develop become a great source of referrals for their primary business as well. Perhaps you know someone, perhaps you are that someone. Whatever the case, to learn more about the AmSpirit Business Connections franchise opportunity, please contact me using the email in the show notes or the one we provide at the end of this program.
Thanks for joining us on the Networking RX podcast. Please put what you've learned into action today and let us know if you have questions, comments, or ideas for future topics. You can email them to us at podcast@amspirit.com. That's AmSpirit.com. Finally, so you never miss an episode, be sure to subscribe to the Networking RX podcast through iTunes, Overcast, or however you receive your podcasts. Now get out and network with someone.
The Networking RX podcast is the copyright production of AmSpirit Business Connection. All rights reserved.